So let's start with a couple of obvious truths. I talk too much. I think everyone here knows that. Hell, I host a podcast for a fantasy league of 32 of us. So obviously, it's not a surprise. I love to talk. And again, it's not a surprise. I love to talk about fantasy football and especially my league. So again, it's a bit of a trifecta of duh to start the program here. But it makes me realize every time that we do one of these podcasts that I need to take a deep breath when we're talking about things and make sure that everyone else in the podcast has a chance to share what they're talking about and share their thoughts or maybe even introduce some of these before I kind of bulldoze through in 2 minutes and take all the easy low hanging fruit when it comes to each of these teams. So it's something I'm going to do better at this show, and it helps having two great hosts to do it with. Of course, I've got RJ here because RJ doesn't miss, and the man is a legend. But also, it's nice to have a legend back in the studio with us. We got Bill of the Broncos, the owner of the 101 at the moment, in the studio, back where he belongs, hosting the podcast. Gentlemen, I appreciate you being here.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Great to have Bill back.
I'm happy to be here, guys.
You know, you had a nice habit there going of being busy or having things to do. Um, as somebody who took a 3 month hiatus of the podcast because I was quote busy, I don't know if I have much patience for you having a life or other things going on, but I do appreciate you making the time to join us here tonight, man.
Not a problem. I missed 3 weeks, I think, so I'm still got a ways to go for 3 months, but I'm back for right now.
Exactly. I missed 3 months and don't expect anyone to bat an eye and then start giving people a hard time for 3 weeks. This seems completely fair.
Absolutely.
Anyways, so speaking of three being the magic number, there's three of us on here tonight, and there's just about 3 days until we begin the rollover process. And we also have three divisions left to review in terms of our what should they be doing preview that we've been doing so far this offseason. So last time we kind of went through everybody and said who's on the naughty list and still has stuff to do. I think pretty much across the board, everyone's done what they've got to do. I think we've identified a few folks to be proactive, and that didn't happen, unfortunately. But, that's their prerogative. But nonetheless, we'll get back into the last three divisions, the NFC East, the NFC West, and the NFC North that we're going to talk through. And we'll touch on some of those naughty list teams as we go through those and talk about things that we think they should be doing. So I opened the pod by saying I'm talking too much, so I'm going to, let you guys make the decision. Where would you like to start? The North, the East, or the West?
And let's do the West. We'll start with the ones that you guys aren't in.
I was thinking that, Bill. So it's nice when great minds think alike.
That's what I'm here for.
So we'll start with the bottom and work our ways up. So at 3-14 last year, we have the almighty 49ers. I'll hit some of the high points, less than 30 seconds, and then turn it over to you guys to really drive the analysis home. Basic summary, oof. Took some big swings on Justin Fields and Joe Mixon that didn't work out, but really has some great core pieces here to build around. So I'd say RJ, Bill, do you guys want to go through and hit on some of the things you like or things you think the Niners should be doing?
Yeah, we can do that. So probably one of the few teams that had somewhat of a starting quarterback and had a losing record last year. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing to have Justin Fields, but he's at least in consideration for being on the football field next year. So that's a positive. What are some of the nice little gems? Kendre Miller might be a nice asset. Should have sold Nico Collins when he was at the peak of his value. That probably would have fleshed out this whole team.
Yeah, I think that Nico and Aiden got to go. He has what? No, I don't think he has any picks this year. But he still has his own picks next year. Oh, sorry, he has a second and 2 5s this year, but he has his whole class next year. But he is going to have years of rebuilding if he doesn't do something larger, right? Uh, take. I know everybody wants him. He doesn't want to give him up, and he hasn't for years, which makes sense. Take Nico, move him for everything. I mean, regardless of last year, that's probably still the most valuable wide receiver contract in the league right now. And then Aiden, like, should have sold him 2 years ago before he became 20 million, but he's still worth it too. But get first, seconds, thirds, just bundle it and build. Like, you got to tear down.
Yeah, I agree with especially the Hutchinson. Nico at this point, I don't know, that would probably bring on a very spirited debate for either side on whether he's worth selling at this point or not. Because I think even with that contract, what is he, like, barely cracking the top 10 for like dynasty wide receivers? And more just other people have skyrocketed up the board. But I don't know. He's not a top 4 wide receiver with the best contracts in our league. So I would question how many more than 2 first rounders do you actually get out of Nico at this point. Aiden's one of those where, sure, his value's gone up, but he's still a 25-year-old defensive end and debatably the most, top 3 most valuable defensive ends in the league as far
Sure.
as production.
Sure.
So, like, he's definitely one of those that even at $20 million, I don't know if his value's really wavered much. Like, he's just solid multiple first, and then you just see what else you could get thrown in type of thing.
Mhm.
Which I still think that is the correct approach. Moving a $20 million 6-year contract and getting that type of haul back. Like, I think that provides a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
I would say do the same with Alshire. You might have wanted to do that a year ago, but still, being a $3 million linebacker that scores 150 points a year, like, that's more than a first round pick.
Mhm.
At least as far as value when you're talking about picks and players. I don't know if somebody
Yeah.
pays a first plus, just straight up, but there's no reason why you couldn't get a starting linebacker and a second round pick out of him.
Yeah.
So I think he would be good to start doing that type of a churn and just see what things you can extract extra value out of.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if somebody pays up for Princely, whether it be, like, let's call it a second round pick, so he gets what he spent to get him back, and probably a defensive end that might be a little bit older, but in that same rotational spot. Like, that's a move that's definitely in the realm of possibilities.
Yeah. I can agree there. You were talking about a year too late with Alshire. I think a year too late is Zach Allen. Like, he had a studly year a year ago, and then he just did average this year. You could have sold that contract for whatever you wanted, probably. But I don't know. This seems like a situation where you just go to Dolphins and you're like, hey, I know you have a bunch of stuff right now on rookie contracts, but you have a bunch of picks you can't afford, can't keep them. Let's make a deal for Nico, Aiden, and whatever other pieces you want. Give me a first, but like all your seconds that you can't afford to have. Like, like, you got to go find where the picks are, and he has all of them this year.
So if Dolphins offers, let's call it Mike Evans, probably not appealing, but Niners may have to do a little bit of extra legwork on that.
Yeah, 1-year rental.
Yep. And a Devin White plus. I gotta go to his picks now. All his seconds. No, that's probably a bad move. All his thirds this year.
He has 7.
Right.
Dude,
So, every third round pick.
got 9 threes.
Yeah, and let's call it Vikings first, plus those 2 for Nico and Aiden.
I think you kind of. It seems like it's such a short sale in value, but you have to remember that like the Vikings pick is 3rd.
Right.
Like, you're not getting 103 for either of those guys on their own, and to get that plus all that other stuff, plus Mike Evans, like that's a pretty solid deal. Will Dolphins do that? I have no idea, but he's giving up 1 pick and a middling pick that he can't do anything with.
I will correct my statement. For some odd reason, I thought Dolphins finished worse than Vikings. Dolphins first at 107.
Okay. Okay. I mean, even so, yeah, I would still want that if I was Texans. Just to have rebuild pieces. Is Dolphins going to do that? I don't know. Does it make sense for Dolphins to do that? Sure, because he doesn't have the contract years, and he's going to have to deal those picks away regardless.
Right.
And nobody has 27 picks. And if I'm wrong, tell me, but 28 picks don't come out until after the draft is over anyway. So, do something with them. But that's I'm not gonna dive into a Dolphins deep dive.
Yeah, no.
No, I think you guys have hit it on the head. I think, I like the Dolphins idea because you're going to a place that's asset rich that needs to consolidate to really come after these players. But really, it's that complete tear down. I think, one of the subtler truths of what you guys just said a lot was, hey, it would have been great if he had sold last year. Like, he bought Justin Fields thinking he was going to have a similar year to the one he had before in a new location in the Jets. Would have been great to sell him at the price he had last year. Mixon, same kind of thing. Collins, same kind of thing. Fant, same kind of thing. Allen, same kind of thing. Basically across the board. So, one of the things I know that he hesitated in selling in the past is because he was able to field a competitive enough roster, just always had a QB problem, that a full-on rebuild didn't necessarily make sense. Now I don't think that's so much the case. That his roster did have a bit of a down year. He finished with 3 wins. He controls all of his picks next year. There's already a bunch of people steering into the skid that is the 27 draft, but he can very quickly position himself in sort of a pole position, whereas he's not dealing with, I'd say, the point contribution that will come from stuff from this draft, like Bill might, or Colts might, or some of the other leading rebuilders might. He's going to be in a position where if he tears it down, he may not get to a level of tanking like Bill got to, but at the very least, be in sort of a top 3, top 5 pole position, and just start collecting assets for the rebuild.
Yeah. Some of us have to finish in the middle, so we have to start getting comfortable with that. We all can't start racing to the bottom and then like buying for, hoping for a playoff berth. Sometimes you just gotta take a year, and if you make the playoffs, awesome, but just buy assets with the intention of being a better team by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, you were right. Niners was competitive for a while, but he just did not pay attention to his division. Like, he did not watch closely enough as Seahawks just built that roster, and he should have pivoted right off the bat whenever that started happening.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, if he came into this season with like after selling off everything with the intention of just I'll slightly improve, I'll be a 5-win team this year, like
Hmm.
be in far better position. Not
Hmm.
not to say that it's all lost or anything right now. He still has Nico.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of teams to go talk to, if I'm him, maybe I go talk to the Chargers, who famously traded away a good portion of their picks to kind of have youth. Has 3 first rounders, including a decent first in his own. Um, do I trade those 3 and pick up some of Nico and or Aiden, which happen to be at positions that he could use a little bit more depth at? Um, Again, it's sell these things one by one, and maybe it's a add up. So maybe it's okay. I'm not getting the 3 or 4 first for Nico like I wanted, but if I get like the Chargers first and Adonai Mitchell and I don't know, I'm not gonna do all the steps for him here, but kind of go the 3 or 4 asset route. Um, that's a kind of deal that the Niners really need here is replenish sort of the back end and get as many lottery tickets in the game as you can, hoping that some of these things hit. And again, there's a lot of us that took a lot of shots on lottery tickets over the last year or two that have some to spare and are desperately looking for opportunities to consolidate. So I think he's in the right business for that. All right, so let's jump it up to the Rams. I know at one point was considering, hey, can I make it either as a 4-peat or a 5-peat for the division? That he was able to kind of continue to dominate the West over the years. He saw Seahawks coming, like everyone did, and thought for a second, can I still make this work on the cheap? Gave it his old college try, but unfortunately fell short. Same as Niners, because I think that was a nice way to kind of kick things off here. A couple of high points. Gino has gone in a year from one of the best quarterback assets because of the contract to, it's going to be a perfect contract for a backup. He's got some very interesting pieces on offense between McCaffrey, Tracy, Wilson, McMillan, Kelsey, and then on defense as well. So it's sort of a sleeper kind of core to start with, but needs to add enough pieces that RJ, I'd say kind of like you were thinking, someone's got to finish in the middle. He may, be best suited to shoot for the middle and not so short on sort of the higher producing pieces that he has. But at the same time, being smart about how he builds around some of these other things and some of the risk that comes with, the unknown of what happens in Arizona, what happens in Carolina, what happens in New York, to really influence the value of the pieces that he has.
Yeah. So this is like in my opinion, this is ideal. Like one of those teams where you might not be optimistic for very many of the players' long-term value, but this is also nobody's paying much for these players, so you just roll the dice again, and you do as well as your team can get you there. You maintain this team should definitely be a player in free agency. Should definitely be buying around the edges, using late round picks, thirds, fourths, fifths to improve. But like he should not touch his 27 first or second. Like this is one of those teams that could definitely fall off the cliff, and because he holds on to it, he may, at the end of the upcoming season, he may be thrilled. May have the fourth pick in the draft, or he may have the 19th pick in the draft. But either way, he needs to hold on to it. Because like we don't know what's going to happen with Gino. I'm going to assume that Gino is not a starter next year. But that remains to be seen. But then when you go look at the rest of the stuff, like Travis Kelce, if he comes back, how much are you really like getting out of him. He is not worth a first anymore. I don't even think he's really worth much of a second at this point, just because we know he's done, this year or next year.
Well, Rams hasn't tagged him.
Oh,
Like Rams has not tagged anybody.
okay. Hats off to him for tagging anybody. I'm a huge supporter of that.
And that leads to that interesting conversation of, Kelsey doesn't retire. He gets a third form and doesn't have to carry the, $38 million albatross that would be him on that contract. Because someone's going to, if he doesn't retire, someone's going to sign him in free agency. He's going to get that, a comp pick.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But okay, so I'm just looking at the real big, like what we would consider like home run type of. Oh my gosh, Cameron Jordan's considered a defensive tackle now. That's a
shame.
That's a travesty. So yeah,
he's gonna retire.
We've been saying that for 7 years now.
I know.
I remember the first time he showed up on ESPN like 6 years ago, and we were like, "Oh, he's got 1 foot out the door. He's going to be a TV personality." So like he has some stuff that you want to hold on to and like see how it's gonna work out long term, like a Peyton Wilson. But the majority of like the stuff that he has, Christian McCaffrey, like he's probably going to finish in the top 3 running backs next year. But what is he really worth? Like it's it's the same with like a Derrick Henry at this point. Like they're going to be good until they're not good, but there's less buyers than there are like sellers at this point.
Yeah, but that's you focus on a contender and you get a late first for whoever you can.
But then you're like with this type of a team, you have then you just have another first, and you're a significantly worse team. Like that's why I would say like hold on to the old guys, just keep it going, and hope that you can get another year or two out of not trading these guys off, and then you may be able to hit a couple home runs with 3rd round picks. You may be able to have a whole nother good roster come up without really having to sell anything, and close your competitive window.
Yeah, I don't know what he wants to do. Like I don't know if he wants to be attempting to be competitive or just like sit there and see what happens. But I don't know. Part of me wonders if any of these recent rumors are true that the Raiders aren't going to take Mendoza, because that'll change his whole roster outlook if Geno's the starter again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if Geno's a starter, I think then that pushes you more into the selling everything off. You see what you see if you get a second or first or a second for Geno. See if you get a first for McCaffrey, and then like that prompts you to see what other type of value you can squeeze out of the roster. But if the only guarantee is you're getting 1 first round pick back from Christian McCaffrey, and then you have to do a lot of legwork to squeeze some seconds and thirds out of this team, I'm probably just gonna keep it going. Try to win, division championship money every year or something.
Sure.
Yeah, and again, I think this may best fit in sort of a, break into the consolidation. He's got to be in the breakdown mindset of, hey, I'm not getting a pick for Christian McCaffrey. I got it. Can I get someone to give me a lesser running back who may also be aging and, something on top of it for McCaffrey? Because, again, the guy almost scored 400 points last year. I get the durability concerns. I get all of the stuff. But, again, we don't have a lot of players in our league that score 380 points. Like, it's a difference maker. You're not going. He's worth a top 10 pick, but you're not going to get a top 10 pick for him. So you got to be creative about you how you go do that. That said, I agree with you guys completely. If you can't get that value, hang on to him and enjoy having a player who scores that much.
Yep.
And the defense, again, this is these are type of pieces that like a Goose team is built around. Like, give me a bunch of 150 to 200 point players at their positions. When they spike, they score. When they don't, they don't. And that's going to be the team that I have. So, if he does extend some of these guys, if he lets them hit free agency, if he tags some of them, I think he has some decisions still to make. But I'm also noticing I don't know if Pro Bowl has been applied here because Kelsey's a Pro Bowler this year. Actually, no, Kelsey got tagged. He's a non-exclusive franchise player tag, so he will be on his roster for next year. And then McCaffrey is a Pro Bowler. And he's transition tagged Sam. I can't pronounce his last name.
Oh, they just haven't been updated in the notes. Then that's fine.
Well, the 25 Pro Bowl. It's not 26 stuff. It's 25.
Oh man! So like looking at this roster, like I look at the defensive ends, and like we know that Peyton Turner, Tano, and Arden Key are all going to be on NFL rosters playing next year. I would feel so much better if Cameron Jordan was a defensive end. Like this, that is very much a defense where you're like, yeah, all I got to do is build a Goose style offense. A very like piecemeal offense, and then just that roster looks like it at least wants to compete for 10 wins.
It wants to.
It wants to. I gotta say it's gonna get there, but it has the intention of having double-digit wins.
It's nice when rosters can really share what they want to be doing and everyone follows suits with it. Anyways, all right. Any thoughts about Rams, or should we move on to cards?
Let's keep going.
I'm excited to talk about cards.
All right. So, definitely a team that probably exceeded expectations last year for most of us. Built around a lot of, the draft. A team that shows that there is a path to rebuilding by training with me enough times. I think a good number of the pieces that he has here are either from directly a trade with me or secondarily through it, between picks that he used to build around Quinshon Judkins, and he didn't get Purdy from me. I think quarterback he traded Purdy for, he got from me. Igbuka was a pick from me. Then he got Genty and Hunter from me. He got Mason Taylor from me. Look, let's be a lesson to all of you guys that you can build a winner by trading with Vikings. That I'm not out to get everybody. That sometimes apparently I'm a kingmaker. And a lot of the core of this team is based around the rookies from last year's class. And he set up well to continue to build upon it. Now, we got some bad news earlier this week with Travis Hunter being basically pushed to the defensive side of the ball and kind of a gadget player on offense, which really changes the makeup. And we'll see if he maintains his positional designation at wide receiver for next year. But otherwise, a lot of his strength of this roster is on his rookies and his youth, and he gets an opportunity to just continue to build on top of that.
I think Travis is going to corner. That sucks for his offense because he doesn't have anything else outside of Amika at wide receiver. But I don't know. I guess it depends on what you consider Malik Washington. But man, I don't know. This team is it's so good, but it's so average looking at the same time. I don't know how to explain that, but I feel like he got very lucky to have both San Francisco quarterbacks this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. No, I think this team is fantastic. I I wish he had some amount of picks to continue improving. And I don't really know what he can sell off that isn't a vital piece of his team to acquire some picks. I mean, in the unlikely event that Mac Jones gets traded for a haul in the actual NFL, and he just happens to have two starting quarterbacks, you know, that may be great. Yeah, the Hunter stuff remains to be seen. If I'm not mistaken, that was just a a reporter just talking. And I don't know how much truth to him playing full-time corner there is. But that's also that's only one hole that you have to fill. He probably needs to find two wide receivers, solid at running back, pretty solid at wide receiver. He's good at tight end. Needs to get significantly younger at defensive tackle, but you can build a position like that just in free agency. Defensive end needs a little bit of help, but everything else is just solid. Either position in the secondary, you just add something through free agency. Same with linebackers; they're all good. I don't know what Levante David's doing.
He tagged him.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to stick around or if he's retiring or not. Regardless, he has Dotson, Tranquil, and Wallace. They'll all be back. They'll all be productive in the NFL. At every spot, he has youth. Just really needs that Hunter news to break his way. When they actually get into training camp, and he just needs to find another young wide receiver that fits the build of his roster. I also think he'll probably be looking to get younger at quarterback before the rest of his positions start to age out. But that's 4 years down the line. Yeah, team's solid. He should be thrilled to have this type of roster. He'd be very optimistic for next year. But yeah,
I mean, there is one concern with that next year part, and that's a division mate of his that we haven't talked about yet.
I have no idea who you might be talking about, so don't ruin the surprise.
Well, I mean, we can get to that right now if we have.
Yeah, that's a transition take right there.
All right. I'll let you guys jump into it. Why don't you guys go ahead and kick off Seahawks?
Seahawks bought a contended, and then lost in the playoffs unexpectedly. That's crazy. His
it's
team
not crazy.
Well, no, his team didn't. He lost to the Lions. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, but it happens every year. It's happened the past 3 years. Seahawks has been a youthful monster in the regular season, and then gets derailed by some team that's scoring an obscene amount of points in the postseason.
Oh, I called he would have a first round exit. I was just surprised that it was the Lions that did it. Lions went on one of those Bills runs whenever nobody expected him to make the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
but man, the team is so good. The team it is good. What does he have? Yeah, I mean he's.
Yeah,
there's no weak spot. There's no weak spot here. Well, defensive end maybe.
That's around the league. We all need more defensive ends.
Yeah, but if Rodgers doesn't come back, when does the retirement thing go into effect? At rollover?
I think it starts next year.
Oh, well, that's going to kill my take then. So never mind. I didn't say anything.
Hope Russ and Jimmy G retire this year.
Yeah, no, I mean he is going to be the front runner in one of the top 3 front runners in the NFC for years. unless he tears this down, which he said he was gonna do, but then didn't do anything to make that start happening. So I don't know if he was just saying it to say it or
Oh no,
he actually meant it.
I mean, he just has so many assets that you can't really see it. But he started repurposing some of his roster this offseason. He's traded off like a good wide receiver and a good running back. He just has so many decent players at those positions.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I have no notes. Keep doing what you're doing. Sadly, you're probably still going to exit in the first or second round of the playoffs because you just have bad luck.
The real Goose way.
Yeah.
Sadly, you're going to exit because of bad luck.
Yeah.
You have an incredible roster and keep doing what you're doing. But yeah,
one year you'll get there, I hope.
The favorites never win this league if we've
Right.
learned anything.
well, again, I think he's picking the right time to move out of the stuff that he has. I think he's got to be patient as he sells off here too. Unfortunately, Rodgers sounds like he's going to go one more year, although that may not be in Pittsburgh. But hanging on to him and just seeing where he may land is a $10 million hit if things go sideways. So not the end of the world. Plus, again, with everyone soon to be flush with cap space, there's plenty of opportunity there. Moving off of a Henry and then like an ETN once he actually gets his landing spot should be relatively straightforward. Higgins is the value still at wide receiver. Jennings is hitting the free agency market. Everyone else is kind of worth holding to see what happens. Kupp is a rumored retirement, although I've got to see it to believe it. Pitts could be doing the tour of what every major tight end prospect of the last couple of years has done, of underwhelming in his first spot, then blowing up in his second spot. Now, he had a couple of really good games at the end of the year with Captain Kirk in place. Wouldn't surprise me to see him gravitate to a roster that really rewards that. So,
Kansas City.
Yeah. So again, he's got this all over the place, and he's also got the failure to launches like the Trey Hendricksons or other things. So, this is still the team to beat in the West. This is still probably the team to beat in the NFC. He's retooled to a shit ton of draft assets and depth to kind of start loading the back end of the roster as things have gotten expensive. So, again, like RJ said, no notes. Keep doing what you're doing because clearly it's working.
It's incredible. But again, he still has picks too. That's the crazy part.
Well, those are the picks that he added. So basically, he had Achane that he moved off of for Charbonnet and a shitload of picks.
Okay.
Then he had moved off one of his receivers. RJ, do you remember which receiver it was?
I don't. I can pull it up real quick.
But he had moved off one of his major receivers for, again, a treasure trove of picks.
Josh Downs.
Yes. And younger assets. Like I think he picked up Devin Neal in one of these deals as well. So he's cycling properly and reloading the back end. Maybe he's a year or two late on a couple of things, but that's the price of really going for it because you need to maintain those assets or else you're not going to score the points you need. But again, he's going to keep doing what he's doing and, continue to load things out. All right. It's time to talk about one of us. And since I'm the host, RJ, it's going to be you.
All right.
Yes, we hope Jimmy Garoppolo retires and, takes this hit off of your team. And we also hope Russell Wilson retires now that he's somehow shown up in the Epstein files.
What?
Some of the stuff you just can't make up. That being said, the pieces you're building around are pretty evident. Omarion Hampton, Tank Dell, again a number of good assets on defense. You have an early pick this year. You're setting yourself up for kind of a good rebuild through the middle, which is what we had talked about earlier. Of have the assets, let your sort of picks come in the middle that are going to be contributors instead of paying up to get the top of the draft assets, and really fill things in as they come. So again, I think it's going to be fun to see you make this. I say make the roster your own. I think one of the things that happens is we sort of brace ourselves for not necessarily a tank, but a rebuild. Is we just start acquiring assets at whatever diminished value we can, even if we're not completely in love with them. So I think as you move off of some of those pieces and really reform things around some really great contractors and some young pieces, this is going to continue to take shape.
Yeah, a lot of the big stuff, I'm not gonna cut them early. If I have to hold on to Deontay Johnson for 2 years and then get rid of him, I'm fine with that. Probably not going to be competing this year or next year, but I definitely intend on having more than 3 wins. Yeah. Like you said, I already have the one gem in Omarion Hampton. Remains to be seen if his window lines up with once I actually complete the rebuild. But for the time being, he's going to be on my roster until he skyrockets up the dynasty rankings. And once he does, he may be a casualty to help continue the rebuild. But yeah, I'm gonna take a slow approach and just slowly craft the team over a year or two, and then we'll see where it goes.
Good, patient, intelligent approach.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, what do you have to add?
I mean, I like the idea, right? Like I do like the idea, and it's like it's the right 2 years to be doing it with the rookie classes coming in over 27 and 28 projected, right? But man, I don't know. Part of me really wonders if Hampton is the piece to move, like, and just bulk add other places. I don't know. That's just a thought process for me as a person who has to make a decision at 101 between a running back and a quarterback this year. It's one of those things that, like, is the running back the right piece to have whenever you do this build, given the contract window and the value of them in general. But that's just my thought, is like, do you actually hold Hampton for real, or do you just cut your ties now and go from there? But other than that, I don't have any issues with your plan.
So I held on to him throughout the first year because he's always been towards the back end of let's call it the top 10 in dynasty running backs. Even when he was productive, like he didn't skyrocket up the boards or anything. He has added an offensive coordinator that will improve his value. I have weathered that initial storm of reactionary trade offers. So I can tell you his value is definitely trending up.
Okay.
Now it's more of a, do I trade him off, or like where does he hit peak value? Is it going to be middle of training camp when we know that McDaniel's just going to force feed him throughout the season and people are paying an optimistic price? Or is it going to be 2 weeks in when he has, almost 400 all-purpose yards in 3 games?
Right.
Like, so it's going to be one of those. If he does get moved, it's just capitalizing on value at this point. But that I'm not 100% sure because we haven't reached those. But if we get there and the value's right, then I can definitely see moving off of him. I'm not
Sure.
super attached to him like he's some player that I picked out of obscurity or anything.
Right. He's no Bijan.
Right.
Player you picked out of obscurity, not a Bijan. Bill, I missed you.
Happy to be back.
God. All right. Let's move to a team that needs all the help it can get. The
Giants?
Giants made a very smart move of shuffling their roster by acquiring a hooker. 100% success rate when you do that. Already started turning things over. Really seems to be positioning more for points next year than just assets, but still has an impressive treasure trove to start from. Again, that's kind of what Giants always does: is let me collect as many, highly regarded and well-known fantasy players as I can, so that I show up at the top of every positional projection. But often those are the teams that have trouble converting because they aren't nimble enough to make the moves when they need to. And, a lot of those players miss expectations. They don't get the firepower they need to really carry it home. So, that said, a lot of sexiness on their roster. Kind of going to continue to be interesting as he converts it and shapes it into really what he's going to be.
I mean, he's the same thing every year, like you said. He cycles high value names. It keeps him competitive, and that's great. But it result are there results? I don't know. I think his biggest issue this year is going to be BTJ and Tucker Kraft. BTJ may or may not ever actually be what he was in his rookie year again, and Tucker Kraft may not be able to return to what he was either, coming off that injury. I don't know. I mean, granted that it's an ACL, like it's nothing that can't be recovered from, but you never know how people will actually recover.
Yeah. I don't know. It's it is a typical Giants roster. It's a lot of attractive names. Unfortunately, everything broke wrong for him last year.
Mm-hmm.
Other than Rome still finished out the year with not so stellar results, but yeah, we want to point at Seahawks being unlucky. Giants had all the worst luck in the regular season. It's a good team. Does he have any draft assets?
He has a ton of fourths.
Okay, so
He
not
has
really.
two fours this year, 5 next year, and a 5th.
Well, he's definitely going to be able to fill out his roster then. But I have a feeling these are the names, and then he's going to have to work with what he has. I'm sure there will be some turnover. He'll swap some names for other attractive names. It's a good roster. There's nothing that this put together, there's nothing that I identify like, oh, break this down, get slightly better. He has the Jets backfield, like he's good on that. I don't think anybody's paying an exceptional amount for Jalen Carter. Maybe you can capitalize on the optimism for Jalen Walker next year. But yeah, I think this is just a team that's going to basically either want to stay put or just, swap names around, which more than likely will happen. But yeah, he's just going to have to put those fours to work and, hit 1 or 2 home runs, finding some depth pieces, some like 100-point depth pieces. But but this is a good team. He just has to hope that it shakes out a little bit better for him.
Mhm.
His high scoring weeks are when he's playing Cowboys and Commanders.
Right. Yeah. I would maybe take Aaron Jones to like any running back needy team and see if you could get a third. I don't know that you can get a third for Aaron Jones on 1 year, but also you never know.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of these things, I feel like he's going to wait and see because that's kind of the things he does best. But a lot of the iffy assets, it almost behooves him more to wait. Let things settle. The running back is going to be a snow globe type of position this year where it's going to sit there and look one way. It's going to get shaken up, and when kind of everything settles, it's going to look completely different. So trying to sell some of those assets for value right now is going to be really tough. Like we were looking at the Rams, like Chuba Hubbard, I think is a really interesting piece over the last 2 years and worth some value. But with I think he's a free agent. I think Dowdle's a free agent, and Brooks is still there. If they're going with a two-back system and you're going to pick two, which two do you pick? And then where do these guys land? Where you also have 5 or 6 names that are already hot to trot as probably day 1 or day 2 picks in the NFL draft right now. So it's one of those things that if you have one of those assets like an Aaron Jones, if you can either trade him for a third, which is likely a late third or a future third, or hold him and probably get a second for him. So if it's me, I'm probably holding, but we shall see.
Yep, I would probably agree with that.
All right, let's move on to the second place team in the East. It is a little bit strange to be talking about the Giants than talk about 2 teams above them. So I will give him credit that it's a classic Giants team, but it's one of those rare occurrences where he finds himself not in the top 2 of the division. Cowboys finished in the second last year. Great run. I think actually even made it to the NFC Championship. So just solid all around. Couple of things I'll just touch on. Hurts continues to be a backbone, but again, is the least loved of those elite quarterback players that folks target in startups, but hate once they're on their teams. Made some really smart acquisitions at the deadline last year of Daddle and Gainwell. We'll see kind of how those continue to shake out, as I just talked about in the offseason. And then a couple of pieces that got moved a bit to the back round of their respective locations, like a Torrey Horton or a Darius Slayton, that may get an opportunity to kind of step forward here with some of the pieces ahead of them moving out of the way. So I think he definitely overachieved last year versus what he was expecting. Was able to ride that to the NFC Championship and some payout, which was great. So it'll be interesting to see how he builds on this as a lot of these pieces return. But really, it's now a matter of the challenge we all face of doing it again.
I think he's going to take a step back this year. Dowdle's not going to be a starter no matter where he goes, in my opinion. Gainwell, I don't know that he resigns in Pittsburgh, but I don't see him having the same production that he did in Pittsburgh. And Montgomery is clearly being phased out of Detroit. So running back is a huge problem. Courtland Sutton, it sounds like he's going to get cut or traded, which is unfortunate for him. But yeah, I mean, I think he's going to take a step back. Just on the offensive side, the defense is going to be up and down because that's just how it goes with defensive players more often than not. Yeah, I don't hate the team. I just think it's not going to be what it was this past year.
Yeah, I mean, so most of the players that he has putting up points, there's a strong possibility that all of those running backs aren't putting up similar numbers, for sure. He's probably going to have to buy and be a little bit react to the moves made at running back. Other than that, the team doesn't look half bad. Tight end's fine. Schultz is probably going to be doing the same thing next year. Wide receivers good. I'd imagine Cortland Sutton finds job elsewhere. Probably it continues around that 100 targets, 100+ targets every season. Horton will definitely play more or have more opportunities. I think Walker, even like he's probably a player that puts up 80 points next year rather than like the 18 that he put up this year. The defense is good. I don't see much as far as turnover. If anything, I think it improves. I think Ventrell Miller probably gets a look at being one of those starting interior linebackers in Jacksonville. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think Devin Lloyd is going to be going to free agency.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, like his biggest thing is like he's going to want to. Does he have picks?
He does. He has Panthers first this year. He has 3 3s and a 4 this year.
Those 3s and 4s need to get moved to add some depth at defensive end and defensive tackle, and then just use that one on a running back.
Panthers is 18. I would just say BPA.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, it's is this a team that I see finishing higher than Giants next year? Probably not. But I think we said the same thing all throughout most of the season last year, and he still did. Yeah, it's really nice having somebody like Jalen Hurts who's gonna rush for 8 to 10 touchdowns every year, plus throw a bunch. It's pretty easy to consistently do well with that in a decent defense. So maybe him and Giants are flip-flop next year, but still, at the very worst, this is a wild card team.
Yeah, it looks like he's used his renegotiation already. I'm wondering who he used it on. I gotta go to the
Zach Bond.
yeah, that makes sense. Because he was a $30 million linebacker, and he's now a $23 million linebacker. Again, has been killing shit for Philly, so makes him much more valuable there. But I was wondering if that might have made more sense to use that on Jalen Hurts.
It 100% would have made more sense to use it on Jalen if it had taken him down at all. You want to extend the quarterback, not the linebacker.
Yeah, but are you really that upset to have a $35 million quarterback?
No, but I mean, Zach Bond's now on a 5-year contract and is 30 years old.
Yeah, problem is it wouldn't have done anything to Hurts. Hurts was QB9 last year at $35 million. 9th highest salaried quarterback is Kirk Cousins at 34. So saves him money. So again, something that was popping up here. So good call using it on Bond, but again, looks like there might have been an opportunity to save some money, but still, in a down year, still finishes as QB9. It's not exactly a bad thing to have.
Nope.
All right, we'll talk Commanders here quickly. One of the last teams to lose last year, so had a great season. I'll tell you what, he might have had the toughest offseason or toughest end of the season so far in terms of how things have played out. Nick's getting hurt in the playoffs and putting him in a rough position next year. Williams, it looks like, is going to walk out of Dallas right now. And like I said, there's a bit of a carousel there for where he lands. Pickens has gotten franchise tagged, so Lamb didn't exactly have a bad year last year, but he definitely felt the splitting of targets between him and Pickens in that offense. A lot of the positions that could go one way or the other so far on Commanders have gone the wrong way on him. So it helps when you have a shitload of talent on his roster like he has. But again, many more of these going the wrong way, and there's definitely still some decisions to be made on this roster. He could find himself in a tough situation. But like I said, he's got some very good depth, very good talent, and a lot of pieces that he's expecting to take a step forward last year that didn't, like Giad Chanel. Excuse me, like Giad Campbell out of Philly, and a couple of others. So not the end of the world. And looking at things, I think most of who he has on his IR still, he's going to cut. He's got less than $1 million in terms of cap space available. So for all intents and purposes, I think these are all going to become cap casualties, which will give him a good bit of a cap penalty to start the year next year. But he doesn't seem interested in making some of the other moves he has to, which again would not be hard to get these things activated. In fact, did he actually joke in chat during this that he's going to wait till the last minute again?
Mm-hmm.
He did to do extensions. So I'm not trying to give him any out here, but just cut your IR guys that are multi-years. Take your 50% hit now and take your 25 next year, or 15 or whatever it is next year. What are we doing? Why are you going to put yourself in a deeper hole just for making Jeremy and Mike do the work for you?
Again, it's his choice. I've talked to Jeremy. We've added to the commissioner's sort of legal pad that we maintain of things to talk about for next year. That hey, if you leave them on IR, they apply to next year's cap.
100%
probably. Yeah, there's probably some ways people are going to game that so that hey, I can't cut some of these players, so I'm going to have to roll them over to next year's cap. But if you're going to be lazy, then you get to pay the price for it.
Yeah, but that just gets us to closer to the NFL in real life, where the cap just isn't real.
Yeah, I mean the cap isn't real. It's an arbitrary number that we just have to work around.
Right.
That's all it is. It's an extra hurdle.
So he's a competitor. He's going to be fine. I'm going to talk about something that is going to be very, very interesting to watch him navigate next year. He doesn't have the cap space to extend CeeDee Lamb. He's going to be on a 1-year deal next year. He's either going to have to play the tag game forever, or he's going to have to trade him next season. I think that might be one of the biggest decisions we see made next year is what happens with CeeDee.
That's interesting because let me look at his position from this year in terms of average. Because I know he missed some time. He was wide receiver 11 in terms of average performance this year. A non-Pro Bowler. So he doesn't necessarily get the bump on that, but he's already at one of the higher paid receivers, but wide receiver 2. Huh. Yeah, and he seemed to be wide receiver 1 because he's tied with Jamar for the highest paid receiver, and Tyreek got cut in Miami. So, although I think the franchise tag, Baltimore applied the franchise tag to Hill, so now I think about it, he'll continue to be the most expensive wide receiver. So Lamb is still 2 and needs to be extended. Is 11, so it's still going to be plus up in terms of hit. So that will be interesting to keep an eye on because outside of the Hall of Famer Olamide Zaccheaus, who is the wide receiver 6 in terms of salary right now, Yeah, that's the only sort of person in that range who's really at risk.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Like this is and granted, he might wait till 15 minutes before the deadline and fix it and make it work. But who knows? But um, as of the recording, he can't do it, and I think that's very interesting.
Well, I think just kind of back the envelope, it's probably like a 3 million or 4 million that he needs to be able to make this work.
Yeah,
Um,
he just has to cut players. He just has to physically cut players.
yeah, like again, just if he cuts the players, he has easy 15 million, probably 20 million in cap space there.
Yeah,
Um,
and he has all 4 of his extensions left. Like just do the labor. Jeremy, I know you're listening. Be prepared for that to be something that happens on Friday night.
I think
they're already
anything
they're already chatting in league chat about it. So
Oh,
anything
got
that
it.
the commissions have to cut should go on next year's cap penalties.
that's
I,
not what the
I
rules say right now, but that's absolutely something that we're considering.
All of it plus 20%.
100% charge, not a 25% charge. I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
It's nice when the league likes to stick up for the commissions. You see this, Jeremy? We got 2 owners sticking up for how we spend our time instead of continuing to pile things upon us and ask, what do we pay you guys for? It's
Yeah.
nice when we get a little bit of appreciation.
I also just hate lazy owners.
If there's ever a rollover and you guys have to drop players for me, feel free to call me out on it.
It takes like no time at all. You can do it all at one time.
Oh, 1 year, guys, drop.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, let's jump over to the NFC North. I'll do a quick intro of my roster. Things did not go as planned last year. I ended up as the third worst record. We definitely had a hell of a hard schedule in the North. We had the AFC North as the AFC division we were facing, and we had the NFC East as the inner conference division we were facing. So led to me, I think, only having 2 wins on the year. So embraced it mid-year and really went for the IR players. Had to do some cuts I didn't want to make and some tightening the belt I didn't want to do, but I have a legal roster with the exception of Jalen Hyatt, who, again, I threw on my taxi squad hoping that someone would claim him. But if not, I will cut him probably tomorrow just to avoid having to deal with it um, over rollover. But that said, I have my legal roster of either disappointing or injured players from last year, and I look forward to actually having some cap space to do something with this.
So basically, what you're saying is you're going to be the largest change in year-to-year result. Your roster is not bad, man. Like it's not like you need some depth and you need more pieces in certain places, but there is no reason you shouldn't win more than 2 games next year.
Yeah, in the immortal words of the Good Place and Jason Mendoza, all I need is an offense, a defense, and some rule changes, and I'll be good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, what you need to do is get rid of JJ, man. That guy's a bust
I've
city.
got risk all over my roster, and that's part of it. Is this is as cheap as JJ is likely to be, unless he truly goes the way of Josh Rosen, and I'm not willing to make that commitment yet.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I don't know if I'd get rid of JJ. I'd ride that. I'd want to see like what he's going to be worth because you didn't pay a substantial amount for him. Like in the was it 107 value that you paid?
So the deal I got JJ in was Burrow, and I think Ayuk was one of the other big pieces in it for JJ, Barkley, and Marvin Harrison.
Oh, okay. I mean, Marv's gonna actually play well eventually, and then he'll return all that value. So you're good.
You're not wrong, man. Like your offense is just full of risk. Like Marv, Malik, right? Man, it's everywhere. It's everywhere for you.
Yeah, it was Joe Burrow, Braylon Allen, Caleb Johnson, and Ayuk for J.J. McCarthy, Saquon, and Marvin Harrison.
And this is a really nice roster.
Dear God, I've made 2 trades in the last 30 days. This is usually the point where somebody would send a welfare check on me.
Yeah, definitely.
No,
need
it's
to.
free rollover. You gotta wait.
That's true.
Nobody's making deals right now. They got to get their cap space and cap years back.
Well, it's not for lack of trying. And I will give some credit. I know it is my team section right now, but I didn't say this earlier. Full credit to Giants and continuing to try and make some deals happen. There were a couple owners that I had to perform a health check on just to make sure that they were doing something in terms of were they checking in, were they doing things, and frankly, were offers just dying in their inbox or they're responding. And the owners I did that check on, most every single one had a Giants offer in their inbox. So it's definitely not for a lack of trying.
No, if anything, Giants is consistent with effort.
But yeah, I think, I saw myself going off the road. So I just, instead of, continuing to skid down the street and potentially going over the cliff, went right into the ditch. And, the tow truck's here. I'm back on the road. I'm ready to start driving again.
Well, I approve your efforts. I don't want you to do too well for selfish reasons in the future, but I accept your wishes moving forward.
Hey,
that was a rough comment.
This is for now. Obviously,
Oh, I know.
I'm gonna trade some of these assets to you for one in my pick next year, and I'm gonna blow it all up in tank again.
Right. Oh man.
I am the crazy teenager of the league. It's I'm daddy's little princess one week, and then I'm full goth the next week. Then after that, I've sold my kidney, and I'm gone to Ibiza for a spring break party spree that comes back with my new husband who is running away from Russia, who needs a green card. So it's everything you could hope for in a just ridiculous situation.
I can't wait till post pod when I can have you watch YouTube videos of guys that are definitely going to go at 112 so that I can try to sell you that pick.
Can't wait.
But don't pay slightly more for 111.
It's okay. I'm just going to buy them all.
There you go.
All right. So move to Packers. Jeremy did his reload year, recognizing kind of where his roster was. He's never going to get rid of Jordan Love as long as the quarterback of the Packers. So he's got his starting quarterback at a pretty reasonable cost right now. Justin Jefferson, had a down year, but at $19 million is a pretty well-paid asset there. And again, really built around kind of the same kind of thing. Get some assets that should bounce back and get them cheap, and then draft capital. So it'll be fun to see Jeremy actually do the work in a draft. I feel like the recent draft memories I have of Jeremy are, him being kind of between a rock and a hard place and needing to trade up to get like Nick Chubb quite a few years ago, or kind of mostly moving out of the draft for players because he's looking to continue competing instead and taking advantage of the rookie fever we all get every year. So that said, he's in a pretty good spot with assets here. Anything jump out to you guys in terms of stuff that you really like?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I like. You know, I tip my hat to him, and I've said it time and time again. He always finds like the quality defensive gems. Um, you could say that like the McDuffie one was just like, ah, he's a Packers fan, so like he took a shot on that. But like he's done that a million times. Found guys
Yeah.
that are thrust into positions and score 150 points and then consistently do it year in year out. Yaya is another one that he got, and if I'm not mistaken, he took him in the third round. Like that was just a player that he identified. And just, oh, what do you know? He's been consistently good, always around 100 points. So I too am eager to see what he's going to do with his draft capital, but I just know it's probably going to be a home run in most scenarios.
Yeah. I think my favorite thing that he has going on right now is he has a very healthy draft class this year. Like he has a lot of picks in the second, third, and fourth rounds. And I don't. The only thing that I wonder about player wise right now, like on his current roster, is Justin Jefferson. I hate JJ McCarthy. Like I think he is dog shit water. Like he is awful. And I don't know that Justin is gonna really have huge value like he did prior to JJ ever again. If they keep this project going, I don't understand why they would, but whatever. That's a different conversation. This might be a good time to potentially look into moving Justin. See if you can get like another pick in the top 10. Who knows? I mean, it's definitely possible. Replace him with like a Jordan Tyson or whoever. But that's my only question for him right now, looking at his roster.
Yeah.
Look, as much as I would love for Jeremy to take that advice, look, Jeremy, if you're going to sell Justin Jefferson, I would love to have the Minnesota stack start with those two. So please give me a call. He's not going to sell Jefferson short right now. Minnesota is going to do something at the quarterback position. They're going to bring in another piece, whether it be Mac Jones or Malik Willis or something. It's not going to be Kirk Cousins, but they're going to do something to supplement JJ McCarthy so that if things go to shit, hell, I mean, maybe they'll go get the patron saint of backup quarterbacks, the heir of the Josh McCown legacy, Jacoby Brissett, to bring in there.
Yeah, maybe.
But they're going to do something so that if JJ eats shit again for a second straight year, that they're not completely hosed there. The fake trade I've seen thrown around that I love is an Addison for Mac Jones swap. Obviously, potential other draft capital might be involved, but if you think Mac Jones is going to solidify the position, Addison has been in legal trouble twice. Get him out of there, build around the stuff that is going to be reliable, and solidify stuff. I think that makes a lot of sense. But they're going to do something so that it's not another lost season for JJ. Otherwise, they're going to say, fuck it, we're going to move him for a king's ransom, a Micah Parsons type deal, plus some, and use that to say, hey, we didn't get to capitalize on what looked like to be the first window here. So we're going to roll that window over here to hopefully, still on JJ's rookie deal in his third year. If that doesn't work out, then, they have to replace the quarterback, and they're not too far worse off for it as a process. All right. Bears 7-10 last year. Recently acquired Burrow from me. He's climbing out of the hole. There were quite a few years where it was Bears moving draft capital and not being in a position where he can actually do anything. and just being stuck. Got patient and is starting to build himself a way out of that hole, which is nice to see. Again, also got some bad news with Chubb getting cut from Miami, but he's likely to sign somewhere else. So, not the end of the world. But a lot of points on the roster, a lot of risk, though, in terms of do they end up in the same sentence as a Bradley Chubb? Zaire Franklin's one of those that perform well for Indy, but is he going to be on the Colts roster next year? And I think that could be said for a good portion of the assets here. What do you guys have to say about the Bears?
I think that he's very lucky to hold the 107 right now. I think he needs to take best player available on offense and just hope to God that Kenyon Sadiq is there at 7.
I don't know if I would take Kenyon Sadiq with this roster.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think the top wide receivers will be gone, and I think that he'll be the one that left at 7. But I don't know, TBD, obviously. But
yeah, I didn't even know that this team had the 107.
yeah, I just looked at his picks. He's got 107. He's got a 3rd this year, and then he has 4s and 5s next year.
So I don't know. He's probably not winning. He's probably not winning championship this year.
No,
He's probably doing a little bit better than I am. I don't know. The team's good. Like, I'm optimistic in the secondary. I think he has a good group of like young players that if he can extend them, he'll have those for a good period of time. His linebackers aren't old. Kenneth Murray and Foye Oluokun still have a few more years in them. Yeah, this is definitely a team that's going to build. Is he going to have the same? Actually, I think he'll probably improve on that 7 and 10.
Yeah, I could see that being switched 10 and 7.
Yeah. I don't know. Once, like, I'd imagine he's not keeping Nishan Wright around, so like that'll be $9 million that'll be freed up, and I think he gets a comp pick out of that.
I don't think so.
But yeah, he'll have enough money to play around in free agency. Ayuk's probably going to be one of those that skyrockets in value once he finds a new team. Everybody's going to be optimistic about him, just especially because he doesn't have a lot of hits on him in the past 2 years. So yeah, like. That's probably a player that once he finds his way to a team, he could probably flip that for a starting wide receiver and something else. And like, there's a couple other of those opportunities. Once we start to hear whispers of Caleb Johnson taking first team reps, he could probably move off of him for another starting running back and something else that improves his roster. There's definitely a lot of room for him to work with this without moving Burrow. I think that's the centerpiece that kind of just needs to stay, whether he has, 10 wins or 10 losses.
I agree. I think that an idea would maybe the best opportunity he would have is to move off of the 107, in like a trade down or a multiplayer deal. Hey, go talk to Niners about Nico and Aiden and start there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good thinking. All right. Last but not least, NFC representative last year, Detroit Lions. Class of the NFC North, and therefore the class of the NFC. I think, a couple of things I'll say. Josh Allen's kind of a good piece to start with. Erases all manner of sins. Did quite well with his scattershot approach to the running back position in the draft. I gave him credit last offseason that I thought, hey, this is going to be a complete miss. Unfortunately, didn't quite turn out in year one, but may be looking better for year two in terms of how things are moving around here. Not exactly a great sign when your top running back was Kareem Hunt. But as always, carried by his receivers, and we'll see how the defense continues to come on, as well as three, I'll call it good options at tight end. Neither are really the leaders of their tight end room right now, but definitely an opportunity to step into that role over the next few years. I think Tremble's already on his second contract.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
you're hoping Ferguson becomes the guy in LA.
Which he'll have a chance to.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, God, like, everything just went so well for him last year, schedule wise and playoff game wise. Like, it all just like lined up so nicely for him. This team is not bad. I don't know how he did his run with the running back situation the way it is, but like that's fantastic. I mean, it definitely helps to have a career year out of Puka. But yeah, like I think this is going to be a situation where I could see him fall off. I could see him be, just outside the playoffs. I could see him be, a first round exit. I can see him back in the Super Bowl. He has all these ranges, and it's all dependent on Josh Allen and Puka Nacua. Everything else doesn't really matter, because if those two suck and aren't putting up 350 plus every season, then it doesn't matter.
I mean, I just think there's a lot of guys that are contributors on their team, especially on defense, that aren't entrenched starters. Is Barrett Carter gonna put up 132 points next year? Is Trice Knight gonna put up 109 next year? What is it? Latu's probably the only guy that I can I confidently say yes. He's gonna put up that, maybe more. Miles Murphy,
yeah.
but is he? It took how long for them to get a 5.5 sack season out of him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, his defense is not special. I think we can all agree there, right? But like, he has a first, he has 2/3 and a fourth this year, and one of those thirds is 301, so that's helpful. He's going to have cap space. He's going to have years, or some years at least. But yeah, I mean,
I think this is the offseason where he goes and buys the boring veterans. Like, just buy a cheap old defensive end that's going to give you 100 points. Buy a linebacker that's 30 years old that is going to put up 150 points.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like all of the players, especially on defense. It's just how, the consistency. Like, I'm not confident in their consistency. And then I don't know. Maybe he knows something that we don't at running back. So I'm just going to let him continue to do his thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're all plotters, or not plotters. They're all consistent, like, producers, right? Like, Vidal was fine until Hampton showed up again, and then he lost his job in full. And Kareem Hunt's never anything special, but he gets you 5+ a week.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just just super lucky. And Tootin, like Tootin had a role that was unexpected in my opinion. But at least last year. But this is going to be. I don't think he'll have the record that he had last year, which is saying a lot considering the divisions you guys had to play in the North. But yeah, I just playoff team for sure. Not the front runner in the NFC, but definitely playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see if he capitalizes on. Look, he had to make some hard decisions to keep all three of those receivers, and between those two receivers and Josh Allen, that's half of his cap space right now. So that is a challenging thing if you have a 40-man roster to have half of it gone in 4 players. So breaking down Josh Allen is probably not going to happen. A, because you're not going to get the value you want for him, and B, it's just having sold basically all of the top quarterbacks at one point or another, including Josh Allen. You're usually dealing with a 2 or 3 person market, and it's just not an enjoyable thing to do. So really, it comes down to, are there either any of these 3 receivers that he says, hey, Puka's tied to Stafford. Is that a business I want to continue to be in? Drake London didn't exactly have the best year this last year, but is set up well. And Olave, still a Pro Bowler despite Schaaf's rookie year. Do I take one of these pieces and use it to fill in some of those other spaces I have because of sort of my depth here? Now, I think he's doesn't have the sexiest of pieces on defense or in his running back room, but I think we're going to look at this roster again in September and say, oh, shit, that's who's got that guy. About 2 or 3 times on this roster and feel much better about where things are for him.
Yeah, definitely a possibility.
All right, well, that gets us through all the divisions and sort of what's on rosters before rollovers, which, hopefully it helped. Only took us the better part of a month, but hey, sometimes those are the things we need to fill the time. In terms of what's happened in the past week, I think we've had 8 trades. Maybe it's 10 based off of when the Chargers were processed. I think it looks like Tuesday of last week. So starting with the Chargers-Chiefs trade, Chris Rodriguez for Brian Robinson and Jeremy McNichols. Appreciate Chargers jumping on that grenade and getting McNichols off the market because, I think all of us got a couple of offers for him, but Rodriguez seemed to step in and be the preferred option in that Washington backfield. It's only 25. So if he can hold the job, that's not a bad thing to add. To do so, he gave Bill his 2027 fifth-round pick back to dump Justice Hill on him. But all in, Rodriguez, Hill, and a 5th for those 2 guys. Again, I think Robinson is a free agent, and we all know that if you go to San Francisco, your next job's in, pretty good shape. So buying the dip there. Bill eating some more contracts from the Seahawks. Stephen Collins to the Giants for Khalil Mack and a 5th. That looks like it's primarily is it a cap dump? Yeah, it's a 6-year cap savings there. Again, nobody's quite sure what position Stephen Collins is playing these days, but right now it looks like the end. Colts cap dump, then trading 2 seconds and a 3rd to the Panthers for Jake Ferguson and Derek Hall. What is Ferguson getting paid right now? I feel like that's a cheap Ferguson. 100 targets? Not bad. Jump in here anywhere you'd like, guys. I'm just kind of going through this since none of these are incredibly impressive until we get to Bill's trade.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of watching people move their cap around before rollover, trying to get stuff done, but I don't know. I don't really have much to say. Some of these deals seem to be cheap given current constraints.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, it's Panthers frees up 21 million and picks up some draft picks. So again, I think that's definitely cheap for the players. But eating 21 million in cap does come with a cost. Cowboys converting 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3 third round picks for 2 third round picks, 3 in 27 for 2 in 26 with the Chiefs. Cowboys moving Hooker and late draft capital for Ventrell Miller. I know RJ, you talked about him earlier as a potential fill-in for the Lloyd departure. Good on you, Bill, buying Laporta for I think it was like the 127, and then selling him for the Saints first and the Colts third next year, which again probably is going to be in the same range as the 127 or better. And I think that puts you over double-digit first rounders in 27, right?
Yes. 1, 2, 3. I have 11.
There you go. So the dream continues for Bill as he really focuses on that 27 draft. And then Giants selling Al-Qadim Muhammad to the Falcons for a fourth so that Falcons can apply a tag to him. So, like Bill said, moving cap around, nothing super exciting except for Laporta, a couple of tight ends getting some new teams. And we'll see how things continue to evolve. But 3 days till the rollover, and then a whole new season, a lot more cap space, and a draft to look forward to. And I think the combine starts next week, so we can start diving into all of those rookie conversations that really get us jazzed up and excited about rookie picks every year. So I'm going to go acquire these guys' rookie picks in the post pod here while they're still cheap. But again, I appreciate Bill being back on here. RJ is normal over, well, pretty close to 100 minutes on the pod this week at almost an hour and 40. So appreciate you guys working overtime, and we're going to work some overtime to make some deals happen here. So as always, appreciate everyone listening, and we'll talk to you next week.